welcome to CSE114 Introduction to Object-Oriented Programming. And in the last video lecture, I was about to start strings type. So I will discuss string today. But before that, let me complete something which was left incomplete or incorrect. So I was working on this program, if you remember. The problem was to generate random integers in the range from -5 to +5. So let me write a comment about that. We want generate random integers in the range from -5 to 5. So that's what we were trying to do. And I wrote this program. So if you go back and look at my video lectures, you will find that this is what I was doing. Let me run that. Okay, so you should see that I'm able to get +5, which anyway I need, but I'm not able to get -5, right? So that is something I figured out as a bug, and I would like to thank to one of the students who did this thing, and he was able to figure out the problem, right? And I'm thankful to that guy. And even I was able to figure out the bug in my program, which I did in my discussion with a student in my office hours. So we need to be very careful about it. So where is the bug, right? So how can we fix it? So the solution for that thing is that we need to cast it right here. All right, because in this expression, if you look at, what I get is a real number. I am getting a decimal value, which will be 11 times a value in the range from 0.0 to 1.0. Okay, and my interest is getting the integers in the range from -5 to +5. So right here I should cast it. I should cast this expression, which will take care of generating the random integers in the range from 0 to 10. So this expression that you are looking at right here, this will generate the random integers in the range from 0 to 10. Now it will do that because I casted that with the help of int here. Then if you have -5 and you add -5 with any random integer which is in the range from 0 to 10, then you will definitely get integers in the range from -5 to 5. So you need to work on it, and then only you will realize what is going on. Okay, so yes, I'm getting -5 now. See, a couple of -5 here, I'm already getting 5, so no problem. You know, we are getting 5s and -5. Okay, so this is how it will work. So for these kind of problems, I would like you to first think about the approach, like how can we get it, and then only when you're sure about the logic that you have to use to get the random numbers in that range, then go on and implement that in Java. So the concept you should know first. Okay, make sure that the concept that you have is correct, then only make an attempt to implement that. Good. So now let me take you to my lecture slides and a new topic that we are starting, string. And this is a very interesting topic. A lot of questions are asked on string in interviews, and yeah, you should expect questions in exams as well. So what is string? Okay, so if you ask me what is a string, then I will say that string is sequence of characters. Okay, so let's see, right here in this statement, message is our variable, its type is string. All right, and if you look at the value which is being assigned to it, which means the string literal. Let's look at the string literal. So here you should see that I have sequence of character. This sequence is important for me. I should not mess up with this sequence. If I change order of W and E, L and C, all these, if I mess up with this ordering, then I'll get a different string which may not be meaningful. Right now this string says welcome to Java. That is only possible when I have the characters in my string in this specific order. So this sequence is important. Okay, so I would call string as the sequence of characters, character data type. Okay, characters is called a string. All right. So whenever in your program you have to deal with the data like string, like text, then you should declare that data as of type string. All right, and pay attention to the way we write string here. So when you write string, then this first letter of the term string is capital. So the fact that S is capital in string means that string is a class. Alright, so string is a class in Java which we use in order to create objects of string type. So what is message? Message is an object. Okay, it's a variable of object type. So it's an object of the type string class. Alright, so this class and object you'll get to know really well in a week or so from now when we start a thorough discussion on classes and objects. Okay, so what is string is a predefined class in Java library, just like system class. Okay, so system class we have used in system.out.println. Alright, and system.in we used in the scanner class as well. So system is also a class. Look at S is capital. Right, so whenever you see a name in Java which starts with capital letter, then probably it is a class. Okay, good. So what else we need to know about string? String type is not primitive data type. Okay, so you remember primitive data types. The example of primitive data types are integer, character, double, float, byte, long. Alright, and then boolean. So these are all primitive data types, whereas string is reference data type. Alright, so what is unique about reference data type? So when you declare anything as reference, like when you declared message as of type string and string is reference type, then in the message variable you will hold the address of the string. You will not restore the original value, right? So for the reference variables they hold address. Alright, they do not hold the actual value, whereas in primitive data types like integer, character and double, we store the original value of that variable. Okay, so that is a difference which you should kind of keep in mind for the time being. You may not be very confident about what it means right now, but as and when we advance in the CSE114, you will have a better understanding of this thing. But for the time being, knowing that reference type will store address, whereas the primitive type will store actual value is sufficient. Alright, and there's one more difference between reference and the primitive type. The reference type stores multiple data. Alright, so more than one bit, more than one information. So what do I mean by that? If you look at message, right, so type of message is string and string is reference type. So in message you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 space 8 9 10 space 11 12 13 14 15 15 characters are being stored in message. Alright, so messages, not message, a reference data type or reference variable will hold more than one information at times, right? Not always, sometimes. Like here, message is string and it has some 15 characters in this string. So that is one. There's another difference between reference type and the primitive type. Primitive type will hold just one information. So let me write this example. So when you say int x is equal to 345, 34589. Let me make it more complicated. So you may argue with me that you're saying that primitive data type should hold just one piece of information, but you have written 34589, which means 1 2 3 4 5 5 digits. Well, that's okay. You may say that these are 5 digits, but these 5 digits are not independent of each other. So these 5 digits are in fact defining one integer value, which is 34,589. So in x, in a memory location which we are calling as x, we will store the value which is 3 4 5 8 and 9 when you do something like this. But if you write something like this, if you say string name is equal to John Smith, so here you have each characters, right, a sequence of character. So in the name, if name is your variable, then what do we keep in name? So name, right, just like the way I have x, I'm trying to create with a similar scenario. In the name you will have what? Now in this memory that you have, you may store John Smith, alright, T and H. There should be some space as well, and assume that John Smith, a value that we have, which is a string value, is stored at an address 1001. Okay, you're just making up an example to explain to you the difference between the reference type and the primitive data types. So what will we keep in name? Name will not store John Smith. Name will in fact store this address 1001, and at that address you have the actual value of the string. Okay, so I believe this much is sufficient for you to know about the difference between reference data type and the primitive data type. Alright, so let's move on. We will learn something very interesting now. So let's take an example. So example is of an object. We have named that as sentence, and its type is string. And look at this sentence. What do we have in that sentence? In that sentence object, okay, so it's a reference variable. You can use these terms, reference variable. The nature of sentence. What is sentence? Sentence is a variable which is reference variable. Why reference variable? Because the type of the sentence variable is string, and string is a reference data, is a class. So string is a class, so a variable of a class is reference variable. And here this is being assigned to an address, and that address we have kept a string which is a statement. Now what will happen? Look at some values that I have below this statement. What are these values? We need to understand that. So every character, right, so I told you that, let me write that, okay, string is a sequence of, string is a sequence of characters. Alright, an example here is a statement. Now in the sequence, every character in a string has its index, has some integer value associated with those, and we call that as an index. Okay, so each character, luckily we have this statement here, each character in a string is stored at an index. Okay, so let's try to understand what this index is. So index starts with 0. Index starts with 0. So we want to start with 1. We will always start with 0. That's how it is with most of the programming language. So the first character in my in sentence variable is a, so it will get the index 0. Alright, so here you have a blank character. Space is also a character. Okay, so in this sentence I have written a space statement. So there is one character, capital A, which is stored at index 0. Then the next character, which is a space character, is at index 1. Then the third character that we have is at index 2, so on, right? So all these values that you see, which are these integers, are the index. Index means at what position we have this character stored in our string variable. All right. Okay, so you should be able to come up with this correspondence between an index and the corresponding character. Now 10, right, taken together, this 10, index number 10, specifies the last character, which is a T. Alright, so index is important. Now you'll find a lot of problems related with strings. Someone will ask you to check whether a string is palindrome or not. These kind of questions you'll get in your homework, and you might expect something like that in your exams as well. Most probably in your My Programming Lab you'll find a lot of exercises based on string, where you need to check each character in the string, and you need to make a decision that whether a specific character has this property or not. Okay, so there are some very interesting methods in the string class which we need to learn to solve these kind of problems. Okay, so before I take you through those methods, let's see what do we have out here in these statements. Now, what are we doing here? System.out.println, we know what it does. And here is a string which says that a character at 6 is, right? So what will happen? This thing will be printed as such. Why? Well, because this is the whole string, right? Whatever you want to put, you can type right here, and as long as those characters are not special characters, you will print these things out on this console. Okay, so this part will simply print this this thing, which is char at in parenthesis 6 is, and then you have a plus which is doing which is doing a string concatenation. I will explain to you what string concatenation is in this lecture itself, but let's look at the other part which is more interesting here. So what will happen? Right, this is not a string, it's not in the double quotation. So what is it? Sentence is the variable right here, in which you have stored the string literal, which is a statement. And on this object, right, on this object, the reference variable sentence, you are invoking a method, right? So when you say period character add, then what is this character add? This is a method in string class. This is a method in string class. Sorry about this. Alright, so wait a second. Character at is a method in the string class which will return, or which will print, a character which is present at a specific index position. So when you say sentence dot character at 6, right, so in the parenthesis we are passing on 6, which is the index location. So what will happen? This character in the sentence variable, which is at the index of 6, will be printed out, and that character is an E. Okay, so when you run this statement in your program, then you'll get the output that says character add 6 is E. Alright, now we'll learn about character add, and this is a very important method that you should practice a lot. Okay, it will return a character at a specific position which is indicated by the index value. Fine, right? So we are done with this guy. Let's see what we have here. That's an interesting, method. I'll tell you about that, and probably I should do a demo as well. So system.out.println will have the same impact, but what are we doing here? Right, so you are using sentence, which is the reference variable, and you're calling a method which is to uppercase. Alright, just pay attention to the way we are writing to uppercase. Rest of the things are self-explanatory. So if you invoke a method that says to uppercase, so what should happen? Well, whatever you have in that string would be changed to uppercase temporarily. Okay, it is not done permanently. Temporarily only it will be changed. So in this invocation only, the sentence, whatever value the sentence has, that value would be changed to uppercase. Alright, so what you should see, you should say A is already in uppercase, that will not change, and then statement all in uppercase. Statement. Alright, that's what you'll see in the output. But the interesting thing that you should keep in mind is that the value that we have in the sentence will not change. A new string will be created where which is an uppercase of the value that we have in the sentence. I'll do a demo, don't worry about that. I should do demo for this one. Okay, so fine. As goes the method, it's self-explanatory, very intuitive. What you need to do, what you want to do is, you want to convert your string to uppercase. For that, just call this to uppercase method. How about the third one? So we are learning about three methods that we have: character add, to uppercase, and let's see the substring. It's very important method, just like character add, char add. What substring does is it will return a substring. Alright, so what is a substring? Well, let's use this space to discuss substring. What is a substring? For substring, let me create a string. My string would be something like that: string school is equal to Stony Brook. I don't have space here, so let me go to the next line. University. This is our string. How about substring? Alright, so if you take a portion of the string out, then that will be called a substring. As an example, we can have so many substrings out of this string. Okay, so that's a combinatorial problem, like how many substrings are possible from a string of length n. Alright, so you should look at that. Let's not get into mathematics right now. What are the different substrings? Let's think of some substrings. This is one substring. Alright, Stony Brook is another possible substring, and university is another possible substring. And these are not the only substrings. You can have a lot. You can have even more substrings. You can combine Stony Brook into one. That will become your fourth substring. You can have Brook and university together as the fifth substring. Right? So that has to be a subsequence of the string. Alright. I hope I'm making sense. Right? So substring means any subsequence. String is the complete sequence. A string is the original complete sequence of characters which are given to us. So school is complete Stony space Brook and then university. Out of these, you can get a portion of that, subsequence of that, and that subsequence would be a substring. So interestingly, for us, we have a method which will return substring. So in fact we have two versions of substring method. So how should we invoke that? Let's look at that. So if you have created a string variable like school, and that you have Stony Brook University, then you can do something like that. You can say system dot out dot println school a period dot substring. Let's put some arbitrary value. So 0 1 2 3 4, if you put the indices here, this 0 1 2 3 4 space is 5. Let's pick 6, substring 6, which will be the starting index. So I want a substring that should start from 6, should end till the index. So what I can say, it is starting at 6 because 0 1 2 3 4 for Stony, 5 is for space, 6 is Brook, 6 7 6 7 8 9 10, and 11. Space is 11. So why I'm putting 11? Because there's something interesting that I want to share with you. Now, when you invoke substring method with these two arguments like 6 and 11 the way I have, then 6 is the starting index. Oh, I'm so sorry about this. The first index is starting index of your substring, for substring. Okay, and this and is not in fact the last index. When you the first index is intuitive, very clear. Your substring has to start from that index in the original string, whereas the second index that you provide is it is one more than the last index of substring. This is usually difficult to understand when you are using that first time. So the point is, let me give you that with an example. Whenever you have to retrieve a substring like the way I want to, which is Brook here, then I will specify the starting index, which here is 6. Perfect. But the end index that I provide should be one more than the index that I want, right? So I want everything till k. So I should not provide the index of k. I should in fact provide one more index, one more after that. Then only I'll get k. Okay, so if I do dot substring 6 and 10, then I will just get Stony, I'll just get Brew. I will not get a k. So that's how this substring method has been written. Your last index is one more than the index that you want. Alright, so if you specify 11, then the substring which is returned would be all the characters starting from 6 till 10, not 11. Okay, so this will return substring starting from 6 till 10, not 11. Okay, so that's one version of substring. There's another version of substring which I should write here. System dot out dot println school dot substring. This is a G, and here you specify just one index, and that index could be 6. I'm not telling the end index, right? So when you specify just one index, which is the starting index, then the Java will return a substring that starts with the specific index that you're providing till the end. Okay, when you don't specify the end index, then it will assume that you want everything after the specified index, including that index. So here the result of this will be BROOK, Brook University. Alright, so this is an interesting method, substring. Alright, let me see if I missed anything here. Alright, okay. So the similar thing can be applied to these examples. I discussed this concept using a different variable, but same applies to any other variable if you have. So if you say a sentence dot substring for 0 and 7, then what will happen? It will start from 0, which is an A. It will go all the way, not 7, 1 less than 7, right? So it will go all the way. It will give you till this point. 7 will not be included, right? So this index is excluded, 1 before that. So 0 to 6 is what you'll get if you put substring 0 and 7 plus dot substring 14. What is 14 here? Well, sentence dot substring 14, we don't have anything like 14 here, so that's a problem here. Okay, so I believe here we should have a problem because 14 index does not exist. So please try these things out yourself and let me know. Okay, so strings are immutable. What does it mean? Well, that means that you never change a string. Okay, it is not possible to change a string. The string remains the same. Alright, what can happen is if you are changing that string in any attempt, then you get a new string created with the modified value. The original string never changes. Okay, so let's see what it says. There are no methods to change them once they have been created. Why so? Well, that's how Java has been created, and I believe that by keeping strings immutable, it makes Java even more efficient if you don't allow the strings to be changed. Immutable means it cannot be changed. So what will happen? Let's try to understand what do we mean by string being immutable. So any assignment will assign a new. Let's try to understand what is happening here. Okay, that will explain. Suppose that you created a variable word which is of type string and you assign Steven, right? Steven is the value that word is getting. So word will be holding an address, and at that address Steven is stored, the string. Now if you want to change Steven, right, if you want to change Steven by doing something like this, which is word.substring 0 and 5. So let's see what would be the impact of substring 0 and 5. So you start with 0, which is right here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but this last index is not included, right? It is always less than, it is always 5 minus 1, 1 less than the last index. So you start from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Fifth is to be skipped. So the result is Steve. So this substring will return Steve, but that Steve would, when you do word.substring, a new string is created. Alright, a new string with the value Steve will be created at a different location. Alright, at a different location, and that is returned to the word. The original string that we had, which was Steven, still exists somewhere. Okay, so the variable word is now a reference to a new string that contains Steve. So let me explain that with the help of a diagram here. So what should I do here? Let me erase that because we know this thing that I explained to you. Alright, it may take some time in erasing. Alright, thanks for your patience. Just a second. Okay, almost we are done. Alright, so we will look at the string immutable thing. We need a picture to understand this concept, so that's the reason I had to do all this thing. Example, string word Steven. You have string, the name of the variable is word, and this word stores the Steven. Alright, and then what are you doing? You're saying let's change this word thing, which is Steven, and in place of Steven I want word dot substring, and this is 0 to 5. Alright, 0 1 2 3 4 5, so it will be till Steve. Now what will happen if you do something like this? So let's see what happened when you did something like that. Word will store some address. So what address is that? Let me make it very simple. Here assume that this is 1000 is the memory location, and at 1000 you have Steven stored. That is a string. Steven has been stored at 1000. So in word what you keep 1000. Alright, so that's what will happen when you do line number 1. Now when you do word dot substring, then what will happen? Because of this statement which says word dot substring 05, there's a new string created. There's a new substring which is created, that is Steve, and probably it is storing somewhere here. It is being stored somewhere here, 1010. Alright, so these are two different strings. You never changed Steven. What you did was, from the Steven you took some characters out on the basis of the way you're using substring, and you got some first 1 2 3 4 5, you got first 5 characters out of the substring, but Steven is intact. You did not change Steven. You created a new string with the value as Steve, and which is being stored and at a different location, which is 1010. It's no more 1000. At the memory location 1000 you still have Steven. Alright, so the right hand side is doing something like that, creating a substring of Steven and being stored at a different memory location, which is 1010. And when you do something like this, when you say that word is equal to the right hand side, then what will happen? In place of 1000, which was the address for, this was the address for Steven because of this thing, right? In the first statement what you did, you said string word is equal to Steven, which created a string Steven at the memory location 1000, and that address was stored in word, the reference. Okay, this is reference. Now in the second statement, when you said word dot substring 05, it created another string which is substring of Steve and stored that at 1010. And because of this assignment, what will happen in the word, the address that you stored which was referring to Steven would be overwritten by the new address, which is 1010. Alright, so if you print word, then you will see Steve being printed out, but that does not mean that you changed Steven, right? What you changed was just the address. Now in place of referencing Steven, now this word is referencing Steve. Alright, Steven never got changed. This string never got changed. What happened? We created another string, Steve, and its address was placed in word, which is our reference variable. I hope this is making sense. If not, just let me know. Now I see students joining me in my office hours, but still these are just 1 or 2 students. Okay, come to my office hours or see the TAs. That's the same thing. Alright, so what I should do, let me do some demo program for you before going to the string concatenation. I want to keep it, so I should say discard. Alright, so let's do some experiment. I don't need a for loop. Okay, so what should we do? Let's do string school is equal to Stony Brook University. Alright, so let's print it out. our school is, and then school. Alright, so no surprise, we should get the name of our school. Our school is Stony Brook University. Now let me tell you this fact. Let me highlight the fact that what should I highlight? Okay, let me highlight the fact that the string never gets changed. So what to do? Let me use in caps. Caps means in capital letters. How do I get the capital letter? School dot to uppercase, right? So what am I doing here? See, my intention through this example is to tell you that when you invoke this method school dot to uppercase, then only for this call what will happen, a new string would be generated, and that new string will have all the capital letters. Alright, so in this line, schools in caps, you should see Stony Brook University, everything in uppercase. Alright, but this will not change the string which you had in school. That is the original string, right? So only right here it will change. It will not change actually. There will be another string created with the uppercase letters. Our school variable which is holding this string never gets changed. Let me run that. Okay, so see, because of this method call which is to uppercase, only here you are creating a new string, and that new string with all the letters in capital is being printed here. Our school remains the same. So when you print the statement on line number 6, you see the original value of the school string variable, which is Stony Brook and University. Alright, so I hope this makes sense. Let's do some more experiments. What should I do? Okay, school dot substring. You remember we were using substrings. Let's start with 6. Let me make sure what will happen. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, right? So I'm using the second version of the substring where I'm specifying only one index, that is the start index. So I should get everything. Okay, I should get everything from the index 6 till the end. One substring of school. Example 1. Trying to create something meaningful. Example 1 substring of school. I hope you know. I hope you're getting what I am trying to do. Alright, so substring school. Okay, sorry about that. I should have put this way. Now it will be more meaningful. Alright, so see, these two are previous experiments. We should pay attention to the substring thing. How did I call substring? Starting from index 6, which is Brook University. Alright, so you get Brook University. Now let's try the other substring method that we learned, which will use, wait a second, which will use 2 arguments. Example 2. Here starting index we know, which is Brook 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Let's use 6 and 11. Alright. Now you got Brook. Okay, starting index is 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. 11th we'll have to specify till this point. This point I should say. If you want, if you are saying okay fine, why not 10? Let's see if we are getting broke by using 10. We will not. What do we get? BRO, right? So that's what I was trying to explain to you in my lecture slides. Okay, so again, I'll re-emphasize the fact that practice is important. Ask questions, okay? You can ask questions to yourself and try to find answers, or get back to us. Okay, now what is string concatenation? Well, you may like to combine the strings together. We have been doing it when I use system.out.println. Most of the time I do concatenation. Okay, so let's see. What are we trying to do here? You have this message, string message. Message is a reference variable of type string class, and there you have one string. I should call that string 1, which is welcome, right? So it's the string literal enclosed in double quotation. Then you're using a plus symbol. Then you have another string, string number 2, which is 2 with space. Here you have welcome with the space towards the end, 2 with the space towards the end, and then you have the string number 3. So when you use addition, right, when you have string variable 1 plus string variable 2, it could be string variable or string literal, the result would be the same. So here we have string literals, variable or literal. Let me put literal, variable 2 or literal. Whenever you do plus operation on strings on left hand side and also on the right hand side, the result would be a concatenated string. Concatenated string means if you do these two concatenation, you get welcome space 2 and then a space. These two strings, they got concatenated, means appended to each, joined together. So welcome 2. You're using another concatenation. So what would be the impact? The result of the first two concatenation, which is welcome 2, and concatenate Java to that. Okay, so what happens? String 1, 2 and 3, they are all concatenated together, and the result is welcome to Java. So string concatenation we use a lot, at least in system.out.println. If you go back to the way I have written system.out.println, in most of the cases I use string concatenation. And probably that time I said that let's not get into this concatenation right now. When we do string we will understand, right? So now is the time when you revisit those system.out.println statements that I used and try to decode this thing like plus. Why did I use plus there? Alright, so now let's look at something interesting. What will happen? See, here I said that if you have string on the left hand side of plus and string on the right hand side of the plus, then the result is string concatenation. Well, if you have string on one side, right here, this is string, but 2 is not a string, it's an integer literal. What will happen if you concatenate a string literal with an integer? Well, the answer to that is this int literal is changed to, it changes to string literal, right? So what Java does, it will change 2 to string 2, and then there will be this string concatenation, and the S will be checked 2. How about this case? Same logic that we have in the previous statement applies here as well. B is a character literal, whereas supplement is string. So this B changes to string B, and then Java does string concatenation, and S1 becomes supplement B. I can do some demo on this as well, but we'll do that later. Okay, let's not get into that right now. Now these are some very important methods which I would say that you should practice. I'll take some of those. So the most important is character add, which will let you access one character at a time from your string, and it is very useful in doing some problems like checking whether the given string is a palindrome or not, checking whether or counting the number of uppercase letters in a string, counting the number of vowels that we have in the string, so on and so forth. Because wherever you have to look at a character in your string, you will need character add. Then this equals is a very important method again, which is used to check whether two strings are equal or not. So you might sometimes try using the equality operator on a string, but that is a bad idea. You should not do that. I'll show you some examples where it fails. So we should use equals method whenever we have to compare two strings for equality. Now there is this other version of equals, which is equals ignore case. So this you should be using when you want to check whether two strings are same if you ignore the case, right? So if you want to say that name is same as NAME, right? So for that thing, if these two are the strings, you want to check whether these are same, and in this thing you want to ignore the case, so you will consider name with N small same as the name with N capital, right? So you should use ignores, you should use equals ignore cases where you don't want to consider the case of the characters in the string. You want to make sure that those characters are same, ignoring their case. Compare to is again a very interesting and important, very useful method, which I'll explain with example. Starts with would be interesting. It checks whether a string is starting with a specific character or not. Ends with is similar to starts with, but here you check whether a string ends with a specific character or not. Then index of is important. We'll have example to discuss index of, last index of, similar way. Replace, you might like to do that. Substring we just saw. To lowercase will change every character of a string to lowercase. To uppercase similarly. Trim is another interesting case that you can look at if you want to. Equals is the most important, right? So it will return true if S and T have the same letters, and sequence it will return false otherwise. We will do the demo on that. Now there are some special characters. Let's look at that. This new line, right? If you have if you write /n towards the end of the string or in the beginning of the string, then what will happen? It will add one line in your output. Okay, so we use /9 backward /n a lot for feeding a new line in our output or in our string. /t does the same, but it adds one tab, double quotation mark if you want, and then you should be using this thing, right? So example right here, see, your string can have all the possible characters. So here we have a string. In that string, one of the first character is this less than, then img is I, the English lowercase character, mg similarly, then you have space, src same, then you have equal character. Then you want to have this character in your string, which is double quotation. Now interesting thing is that you cannot use double quotation like this in your string. Why? Because double quotation has some other meaning. That other meaning is the start of the string. So this double quotation means something. When you see a double quotation in a string, that means your string is about to start. And when you say the second occurrence of the double string, then it means that your string ended. Now if you want to use double quotation as one of the character in your string, then you need to be careful. You will be using a backward slash before double string, before double quotation. Alright, so whenever you want a double quotation as a character in your string, then you should use it this way. Otherwise it will be interpreted as the end of the string or the beginning of the string, right? So usual we use double quotation to mark the beginning or the end of a string. Okay, so if for some reason we want to have a double quotation as a character in our string, then we should always put a backslash before double string this way, right? And we are using it again, so we should use it this way only. If not, then it will have a different interpretation. So if you do not keep this here, then Java will assume that you're starting a string from here and that ends right here. That's the interpretation Java will have. And then it will look for another starting string character, will not find it, and will give you a compiler error. A compiler error when you don't use. So try this example, okay? If you just do this exactly the same way, you won't have any compiler error. But if you remove a backslash, like in this case and in this case, then you will have compiler error. So quotation mark, if you want to have as a character in your string, then you should have a backslash before the quotation mark. Alright, so okay, so let's look at some other important aspects of a string. So here we have a very nice string, welcome to Java. It's written so nicely because we can easily see the indices, right? W starts with the index 0, okay, it goes till 14. Now we can use character at to access any character that we want. So when you say message.character at the 0, then you'll get the first character, which is W. Okay, so let's look at this statement as well, because this figure relates to the statement right here. String message is equal to welcome to Java. So message variable has the string, which is a sequence of characters, welcome, then a space character, 2, then another space character, and Java. Now this is something which is very important for us, and in a lot of programs on a string you should first find out the length. Okay, so how do you find the length? Length means how many characters you have in your string. So here the length is 15, right? You're starting from 0 to 14. If you start from 1, it will be 15. That means the length is 15. If you want to count, well, it is given, so we don't need to count, but if you really want to double check, then we can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we have 15 characters. Okay, so dot length is important, which will give us the idea about the size of the string in terms of number of characters it has. Then character at is a method which will help us in accessing one character from our string, and we should know its index. Without index, it may not work. Okay, good. So what do we have? It should not be difficult, right? We are just printing the first character. The output should be a W. Alright, good. So it was a simple slide. Now here we have this issue, like if you want to read a string from the user, then what can you use? So well, if you have to get the input from the user, you need scanner class, right? So you should import scanner class, and then you'll create a scanner object. Scanner input is equal to new scanner system.in. I hope you have practiced this art by now. Good. And then we have, in the scanner class, we have different methods like next int, next floor, next double. So similarly, we have the method like next. What next will do? Next will accept one string from a user, and it should be space separated. This is important. If your string has spaces in it and you want to input some string like Stony space book.university, then for spaces, for string with space, use next line. Alright, yeah, this is a common mistake that the students do initially. So if you want string input that has spaces in it, then you should be using next line method. Don't use next in that case, because next will terminate at the first space. Alright, so this is about how to accept the string input from user from the keyboard. Okay, so how about this one? Well, here we have input.nextLine. Okay, so good. This is about a trick that you have to use for character. Alright, yes. How do you read character from the keyboard? We have next line to get the string with spaces. We have next method which will help you get one string from the user from the keyboard, which will be terminated on the space. Next int we have for integer, next double we have for double, but we don't have next character. Alright, so next character method is not there in scanner class. So there is a trick. So the trick is that, what you should do, you should define string s as input.nextLine. So make an attempt to read a string, and then from this string that you have, you need to take the first character. So that's the trick. Declare s as a string type, and ask the user for input, and we will make use of next line, and we will take that as a string. We don't have a method that can give us a character, so what we do, we accept a string from the user using next line or next, and from that string that you're getting, you should get the first character. Alright, so s.character at 0, which will give you the first character. So that is the trick for getting the user specified file or user input character. Alright, so I hope I should give you a demo now, otherwise it will be a little late. So I should show you this character thing, like how to get the character from user. I should give you a demo on the string, how to read the string, and equals we can do, but I believe we do have example on equals. String concatenation, I can try something on string concatenation. Alright, so discard these things that I have. Alright, so let's start with string concatenation. Okay, trying to make it simple. Hello. Okay, so I have hello as one string. So let's print it out. Message. The variable name should be meaningful, so I'm calling that a message. Let's print that. Hello. Okay, now what I should be doing, let me do some string concatenation. So how are you? Okay, so we already have a string which is hello in message, and when I say message plus how are you, then it will make a bigger string for me, which will be hello how are you. Okay, that's a result of string concatenation. You got it? Yes, hello how are you. Now let's do some more experiment with the concatenation. What will happen? Mr. Okay, this is an interesting case. Why? Message is hello, right? It's still hello. Mr. is another string, so it should be message. Mr. some space, then space here, right? No problem here. Message is string, concatenation with a string, so it should say hello Mr. And after that I have a character. Right, so what will happen, this character will be converted to string by Java, and then finally the message will be hello Mr. A. You see that? Hello Mr. A. Right, so this kind of thing I had in the lecture where the character was upgraded to string. Let me do another interesting thing. Plus 1 2 3. What is 1 2 3 here? 1 2 3 is an integer, so the same should happen to 1 2 3 also. Let's see. Right, hello Mr. A123. So what happened, message is a string, Mr. is a string, A will change to string, so the result of all these things would be a string like hello Mr. A, and then you are concatenating 1 2 3 to a string. So what Java does first, it will change 1 2 3 to a string, so you'll create an integer string, and finally the output would be a string that says hello Mr. A123. Alright, good. So concatenation is something I wanted to show you. There's one more interesting thing. Let me work on that also. And if you say plus 12.5, let's see what will happen. 12.5, which is a double value, is also converted to a string, because till this point you had hello Mr. A123, and then 12.5, which is a double value, would change to 12.5 as a string, and the result is this whole string, hello Mr. A123 12.5. Okay, new line and all these things you can try. Let's do this next thing. For next thing, what do we need? Let's see, name. Right, so here I will use the scanner class. Scanner std in is equal to new scanner. Here it's system dot in sysout. Please enter your name. Okay, and here we are saying name is equal to std in dot next. Let's try this thing. Okay, then your name is, see, I'm doing a string concatenation here. Alright, and then let's do std in dot close. Okay, let's give the name. Enter your name, John Smith. Pay attention to the way next works, right? So I said that this next method that you have will accept a string till the space. So I should not get John Smith, I should just get John, because the very space that it will say, see, it will terminate right there. Okay, so next is not a good method to use when you are expecting or when you want the user to input a string that has a space in it. Okay, so I missed Smith, right, because there was a space here. So the solution for that is next line. Okay, let's try John Smith. Alright, yeah, so that was one demo I wanted to give you about the difference between next and next line method in the scanner class. Next thing we should try is, please enter a character. Right, so we don't have next char, So how should we get a character from the user and print that out? So for character, I should change the data type. I should say char my char. My char is a character variable in which wait a second, I should not have done that. String st input, string input. Okay, so here and char my character. Alright, so what I'll do, I'll get the input from the user in the string, but then from that string is equal to, I will take the first character. Okay, that's the trick. Alright, you entered input is my char. Alright, yeah, so that is the trick. Let me go over that one more time. You want to in your program you want to get some character input from the user. So if I'm saying A or just B or Z or a star or a zero, then that's what you want to capture from the user. But we don't have anything like next line, next double, next int. So for that case, what we do, we take the user input, which is a character, as a string, and from that string that we get, we capture the first character. That's the trick. Alright, so I declared stdin as a scanner object, prompted the user to input a string or a character rather, and the character that user is providing is through the keyboard is captured as a string. Next line thing is the first string, and from that string variable I'm getting the first character, printing that out. Let's run. I will say uppercase, oh sorry about that, right here, uppercase U. Right, so it's saying yeah, your character input is U. Let's try something different, a star. Okay, yeah, so that's the trick. You please try this thing out. Okay, now comparing a string, right? This is very interesting. Don't use an equality operator. That is a bad practice, because you might succeed in some cases and in other cases you might fail. So it's better don't use this equality operator, which we use in case of characters and numbers. Because what will happen when you use the equality sign, then it will compare the memory address, right? And it will not compare actual strings. So what do we mean by that? Well, I should do a demo right here also. Okay, I'll go to this page. So let's do this thing, right? I'll create an example and I'll show you what will happen. When you say string st1 is equal to new, this way you can do, right? Because string is a class, and you can use a class to create an object by using new operator, the way we did for scanner. New string hello. Alright, so that's one. And you'll say string st2 is equal to new string hello. And then we'll say that boolean result is equal to st1 st2, and then you are trying to print dot out dot println result. So you will be surprised to see that the result here would be a false. Okay, and then you will wonder like why am I getting a false when the contents are same. If you look at st1, then st1 has hello. There's no space here. Okay, so no space here. It looks like we have a space here, but there's no space. It's the same thing. You will be surprised like why are we getting it as false when st1 as well as st2 they have the same string, which is hello. So answer to that is that when you created st1, there is something here in st1, and st1 does not have a hello, right? So that is something you need to keep in mind. You created a copy of hello and its address was 100. Let me make it very simple. So in st1 you actually had the address of the first copy of hello, which is 100, and when you created a st2 again with the same string value hello, now it's a different memory location. Probably it is 102 or maybe 108, right? Let's make it 202. It will be more meaningful now. So in st2 you don't have hello. In st2 you have instead 202. So when you're saying result is equal to st1 is equal to st2, then right here you're checking whether 100 is equal to 202 or not, right? Are they equal? No. So what happens actually is that when you do comparison with the equality, then here what happens, references are compared. References are compared, not the actual value. So what you should have done here, in place of doing some using this, what you should do, you should say boolean result equals st1 dot equals st2. So this equals method that you have in string does the actual string comparison. It goes beyond the reference. It goes into the characters and it compares the characters, right? So for that reason, please do not use equality operator double equal sign to check whether two strings are same or not. You should use equals method. Okay, so let's look at it, right? So fortunately we have the same example, and as I gave you the explanation, so let's see. Word 1 is new string hello, and word 2 is also new string hello. So word 1 and word 2, they have the same content, which is a string hello. Now if you say word 1 is equal to word 2 using the equality operator, then what will happen? If that is true, then you should do system.out.println and true. Otherwise you should say false. Now what is the output? Well, we just discussed. This is going to result in a false. So that being false, because it's a different reference here, so the output should be false. Okay, these are two different addresses. So what's the best way out? Use equals. Word 1 dot equals word 2. Perfect. Now there's an interesting thing actually. Just look at the difference. Here in these slides we are creating the word with new keyword. New. There's another way. Rather than using new, you can straight away say, word 1 is equal to hello. This way, right? We don't have any new. Here we are using new. Here we are not using new, we are simply assigning the string to word1 and word2. Now if you do something like that, then Java has its own way of dealing with the creation of a string by simple initialization like this. So in these cases where where you declare a variable of string type and don't use new as a new for creating that string, what Java does is it does something called as interning the string. And in interning the string, only one copy of the string would be kept if those strings are same. So only one instance of hello would be stored if you do it like this, right? So if you try this experiment that I did in the previous slide with this kind of assignment, then you will get by accident true, which you want to see. And why is the result true here? Because in such kind of assignments, Java will keep only one copy of hello, right? Although you have two words, you have two variables, word1 and word2, with the value hello hello, but it will just keep one copy, right? It will do something like this. When it says that you are having multiple variables which are referring to the same string, which is at 100 location, then what it does is it will let word1 as well as word2 refer to the same memory location. And when you then do word1 is equal to word2 double equal to word2, then you get a true, right? So here in this case, because of this concept of interned strings being interned, that means one copy of the string instance is being kept, you will get word1 and word2 to have the same address. Okay, good. Let's move on. Equals we have learned, right? Equals is what we should be using. It returns true if the strings are equal. Ignore what I should do. Let me try a different thing, which is a laser pointer now. Okay, equals ignore case. What will it does? What will it do? Similar to equals, it will return true if this string is equal to string s1. So you should have s1 dot, you should have s2 dot equals ignore case s1, right? That's how we are doing it. Word1 dot equals, word1 dot equals. So here if you have another string s2, then you should say s2 dot equals ignore case s1. It will return true if this string is equal to string 1, ignoring the case. This is case insensitive. Compare to is an interesting method which you will have to use if you want to compare two strings and see whether one string is coming before the other string or later. When you consider sorting, when you consider lexicographical sorting or alphabetical sorting, right? So what will happen, it will return an integer, and the integer value could be 0, could be less than 0, or could be greater than 0, and that will determine the order in which these two strings will be stored if we have to put them in some order, ascending order, which is lexicographical order or alphabetical order. So the same compare to thing you can write with ignore cases, where ignore case where you will not consider the fact that it is uppercase or lowercase. Now you can check whether a string starts with a prefix, whether a string ends with a prefix or not. So most of these methods I'll say you need to try. I'm doing some demo of the most common methods, but you should remember these methods because you never know. For some problems, you may be able to solve those problems by using these methods quite easily compared to doing it without using these methods. Okay, so substring is something which I already explained to you, but let's do that one more time. Obtaining substring, how do you get that? So it has two versions, right? One substring with just the beginning index. The other substring method where you specify beginning index as well as the end index. Now, when you do substring with beginning index, like message.substring11, so what will happen? it returns this string substring that begins with the character at a specified begin index and ends to the end of the string as in 4.2. So this is your figure. Message is your whole string, and you're saying message dot substring 11. So you're not specifying end index, you're only specifying beginning index. So the result would be everything, or maybe the substring that starts at 11 and goes till the end. So you should get Java. So the other one where you specify beginning index as well as the end index, here it will return the string substring that begins at the beginning index and extends to the character at the index and index minus 1. Okay, so this end index minus 1. Note that the character at end index is not part of the substring. Okay, so if someone says message.substring 0 to 10, 0 to 11, sorry, then it means you should go all the way starting from beginning index, which is 0, till 11 minus 1, which is 10. So the result of that would be welcome to. That's it. There is a space character as well. Okay, but what you would see as printed would be welcome space 2 and then a space again. Now there are a lot of methods and all these methods are important. So let's look at index of. What index of will do? Sometimes we are interested in finding out the index of a character in the string. If that is the case, you should use index of method. So you should say st dot index of, say, capital letter A. So if a character is present in your string, then it will find the first occurrence of ch in the string. And if the ch is not present in the string, that you get a minus 1. Minus 1 means it's an invalid index. You'll never see a negative index in a string in Java. Now index of ch from index, well, you can specify that search for the character ch starting from an index. So you can specify from index as well. If you do not specify from index, then it will search for that character starting from 0, from the first character in the string. But you can have more specific search for that character index by specifying the starting index, right, from index. So it will return the index of the first occurrence of ch after from index in the string, and it does minus 1 if it is not matched. Alright, so similarly you have index of s, where s is a string. So you might be interested in finding out whether a substring exists in the string or not. So same versions of index of methods you have. You can find the last index of as well. So here the search will start from the end. Okay, these index of, it starts from the beginning, whereas the last index of, it will start from the end. Okay, it returns the index of the last occurrence of ch in the string, and it is minus 1 if that does not exist. So these are some interesting methods which I'll say that you need to practice, and you should know where to use these methods, because a lot of problems will be based on this. If you know these methods, then the problem would be a lot easier for you to solve. Now let's see how can this index of will help us. So interesting example here, where we have a name of a person. The name of the person has a space here, so first name and the last name, Kim Jones. Now let's see if we can split that into two strings such that the first string is the first name and the second index is the last name. So as a human being, you should find it very convenient. You will get the first space character and you'll split on that, right? So, well, the same thing you can do by using the index of method and the substring method. So let's see how do we use that. First of all, in order to split this string, we know that we can make use of substring to get the first substring, which will be our first name, and the last substring, which will be the last name. But we need to find out the index of the space character, right? So what do? Let's take k as an int variable, and that int variable we will find the index of the space character. So how should we do that? If s is a variable that is storing the name, then I'll say s period index of the space character. So it will give me the first instance of the space character, which is 3. Now once you know that the first space character is occurring at 3, then you can make use of the substring method with start index and the end index. Okay, so what you do, string first name is equal to s period substring, start index is 0, the end index is k is 3 here. K is the index of the first space. We do not want first space character. What we want all the characters till k minus 1. Alright, so naturally s dot substring with 0 and k will return all the characters starting from 0 till k minus 1. Starting from 0 till k, which is 3 minus 1, so 0, 1, 2. You get Kim as the first name. For last name, what do you need to do? Well, we have another version of substring which will take the starting index of the substring, which has to be k plus 1. K is 3, k plus 1. So just tell k plus 1, and what it will do, you have given the starting index. It will get all the characters from the starting index till the end of the string. Okay, so it's very interesting example which highlights the importance of index of method and substring method of string class. Alright, so here we have some interesting couple of interesting example where if someone gives us a string that represents number, then how to extract the number out of that string. So as an example, string int string is 15. So 15 here is not an integer literal, it is a string literal which is of type integer. So this is a string that has two characters in it. The first character is the numeric character 1, the second character is numeric character 5. So this is a string which has 15. I should not even call it 15 because it's a string. So it's a string that has the character 1 and 5. If you want to extract 15, the numerical value, from this string, then how should we do that? Well, for that we will use integer class. So this is an interesting thing you would learn for the first time. So the int that we learn, okay, now I need to change my pointer to pen. Just give me a second. Okay, fine. So this integer thing that you are looking here is a wrapper class. So we do have wrapper class, like this is a wrapper class for int. You know that int data type is primitive data type. We used int to declare variables like int x is equal to 5 and all that. So for some applications we do need a class that represents integers. Okay, so for that Java has provided integer class which will store integers only, but it's a class. Okay, so it's a reference data type which is called wrapper class for integer. Similarly, you have a double class which is a wrapper class for double. Alright, now in this integer class we have a method called parseInt. Right, so if you use integer.parseInt method and pass on this string which is int string and that has an integer in it, you'll get the result as the number 15. Similarly, the same logic you can apply on a double string. So this number that you see here is a string and the characters of the string are 5, 6, a decimal character, this is a character 2, 5, 6.77653. So this is a double string. Now if you want to extract the double value in the string, you should use double.parseDouble and then the string here, and this guy should return the value which is 56.77653, and you can do all the mathematical operation that you want to do on this double value. Alright, now probably this is my last slide here, and it relates to the formatting. So students, they reached out to me in past, and they reached out to me because the output which probably what do we call MPL expects is not the same as what they are getting because of some formatting and all. So for that, the solution is to use this method printf. All right, so like println, we have a version of printing method which is called printf, and this printf helps us in formatting our output. Okay, so here whatever value you want to put, you can specify the format, like how do you want to print that. Okay, so it makes use of percentage sign and then the format specifier. So let's look at some examples, and that should give you some idea about it. So this format is a string that may consist of substrings and the format specifier. So format specifier will tell the Java like how should Java print the result. Okay, so this format specifier begins with a percentage sign and then specifies how an item should be displayed: a numeric value, a character value, or a string. So let's look at some example. Now this is how you'll be using format specifier. Percentage B, if you're using that, then it means that you want the item to be printed as boolean, so it will have true or false as the output. When you say percentage C, then it means that you want to print a character. It will print something like A. Percentage D is used for decimal integers. So if you have x that has a decimal that has an integer value, then you should write corresponding percentage D. Percentage F is for floating point, like this one. Percentage E is when you want to print the value in scientific notation, which is 4.55. So I hope you know what the scientific notation is. So this corresponds to 45.56. Alright, so that's how you would write that, 45.56. But if someone says that we need to write it in scientific notation, then it will be 4.556 into 10 to the power 1. But that is written like this in scientific notation: 4.556 zeros e plus 01, which means multiplied by 10 to the power 1. And for string, you should print that as percentage s. So now let's look at this example. Okay, so this example should be self-explanatory. Assume that you have a variable like count. Its type is integer, has a value 5. Now you have another variable, its type is double, and the value that we have here is 45.56. Now you want to print that out using printf, which is formatted output. So you should say system.out.printf, and then let's see how we are using it. So you're saying count is, and that's where the value will come. Count is percentage D and the amount is percentage F. So what will happen when you run this statement? Then the count is percentage D means you are referring to an integer value here. Percentage D means an integer value, a decimal integer. Okay, so here the count, which is our integer, it has value 5. So this place count is, it will get a 5 value here, right? Count is 5 when you run this statement, and the amount is percentage dot 2f. Dot 2f means that we want 2 places after decimal. Alright, we want 2 places after decimal. So how should we specify? You should specify as percentage dot 2 means after decimal we want 2 places, and f because it is floating. Floating means decimal. Okay, and then because of that, the amount value that you have, which is 45.56, is printed as 45.56. Okay, so there are a lot of interesting things that you can do using formatted output like printf. So from exams point of view, I am not very much interested in asking questions on printf, but sorry, this will be handy for your my programming lab. Alright, so let me know if you have any questions on this. Probably the questions that I'll put for homework would relate to these concepts. Alright, so let me stop right here, and I'll see you in the next video lecture. Bye bye, see you.